What's shaking? So I am live recording on Facebook as well as YouTube, although I might be having some visual complications with YouTube. So, anyways, hi, happy solstice. I hope everyone is doing well. Um, I'm coming on today to discuss a little bit about what's going on in the cosmos because honestly, I feel like it's a little bit pertinent. It's the holidays. Everyone has been having mixed feelings and all these other things that are going on. Somehow, I also end up always doing these broadcasts like late at night when I'm halfway tired, but I think that's part of the magic of it. So, anyways, so happy solstice. I hope everyone had a lovely time. I'm going to do my best to keep this brief because it is quite a bit of information and I'm trying to make sure everybody can digest it properly. So here we go. All right, so current transits. These are going to be primarily happening between December 25th to the 30th. So in the latest and greatest renditions, we have Pluto in Capricorn. It's also in retrograde, conjuncting Venus retrograde in Capricorn. Ooh, ah. So, all right. So, what does this mean? So, the running themes with this type of transit, and I never take Pluto lightly, it's a very dense planet. And I know some people say that it's a dwarf star or whatever, or a dwarf at this point. I don't care. I will always consider it a planet, call it what you like. So what does Pluto and Venus conjuncting together in Capricorn and retrograde mean? Well, let's take a look at first and foremost. So the sign of Capricorn, that's one of the earth signs. It rules material things. Yes. One of the things about Capricorn is that it rules time and it rules progress. So in this case, we have to consider how this is going to affect our momentum in our daily lives, and specifically when it comes to the realm of material things, because that's what Venus rules. It's a very um, corporeal type energy. So it's a very corporeal form. So here's a fun little bit that I learned recently while I was listening to a podcast. So Capricorn, according to ancient alchemical paradigms, uh, in the system of where Aries is in the midheaven, Capricorn was considered the completion of the soul's evolution. Pretty cool, right? So Aries was the beginning of the story in the zodiac, and that's why it's considered the, shall we say, the new year, the new beginning, because it's the child. It is the self, it's the ego. You know, in psychology and natal development, what is the first thing a child learns? It learns about itself. It learns about this stimulation in the world in it, and the world around it, excuse me. So in the alchemical paradigm of the zodiac, Capricorn is the final one. So you have Aries starting off, okay? You have Cancer, you have Libra, and then you have Capricorn. So one of the things that this context is going to bring us to is the reflections of challenges that we've had and the fears around these lessons and how we've surmounted these lessons, for that matter. What was the takeaway in the issues that we've had throughout the year? And it's honestly, I find it pertinent in this holiday time anyways to reflect on these types of things, not in the sense of ruminating on depressing things, but actually reflecting on what strides we've made throughout the year. The fact that we're still here alone, especially with everything that's going on, that's just one thing to consider. Now, when it comes to, because Venus is in this picture here, one needs to consider the themes relating to the relation of feminine figures in your life. So, especially significant ones through your work, through your money, and your material possessions. So, say, for example, if you had a teacher who had a major impact in your life and they identified as female, what type of lessons did they bring in? What type of role did they play? So that's another aspect of this. And also, first and foremost, is your intrinsic response to the challenges that have occurred in these areas. Hmm. Let's see. So, what else when it comes to Venus and Capricorn? So another one that often happens with people, and I this actually happened to me recently as well. Lovers will come back in the fray during a Venus retrograde, whether you get back with them or not, or whether you rekindle a friendship, or whether you have a one night stand. All of these can be factors in terms of that particular retrograde. So, something to consider, and you might even have that run into where you realize that you weren't, say, good as a couple, but you make great friends. So, these types of things can happen with that. Now, incidentally, again, because Pluto, the planet of the underworld, so to speak, the symbol of the underworld is conjuncting Venus, this is going to bring up some triggering factors. It's going to bring up fears for some people. That's just its nature. So, how does that saying go? Something, you can't change a tiger's stripes, I think is how it's said, is tiger zebra, something of that nature. So, one has to consider in that scenario, what is your relationship with your inner fears? What do you value? And frankly, what is the shadow aspect of what you're valuing? Because, for example, you can have too much of a good thing and it can become a vice. So, in this particular case, what is it in your life that is material or that can relate to the feminine, or also something else relates to you receiving in your life? The feminine archetype represents a ability to receive from others. In this particular instance, how are you receiving? What are you taking in? Is it healthy? Is it toxic? What is it that is powering your essence, your dynamic, and your vitality? Is it something healthy, or is it something that is dragging you down? That's something that Pluto teaches us, because honestly, when it comes to these types of things, the it's important to have a discerning eye. And regardless of whatever is going on in the sky, I'm not just talking in sense of cosmic weather. I'm also talking about what what are you using to nourish yourself, to propel yourself forward? What are you finding inspiring and beautiful? Venus isn't just about pleasure and money. It's also about how we take in stimuli, how we take in the world around us. So, are you able to receive as much as you have given? Some of you may be finding that you've been giving too much to the outside world and not to yourselves. So, again, I encourage you in this winter time, take that hot bath if you're into baths, read your favorite book, watch your favorite show, spend time with people who uplift you. So, that's going to be incredibly important with these types of things. All right, so next on the list, so Saturn is in Aquarius and is going to be squaring Uranus retrograde in Taurus. Now, Uranus has been retrograde in Taurus for a hot minute, so that's nothing new. Saturn moved back into Aquarius over these past few months because it went retrograde for a little bit. I talk about this in one of my previous videos somewhere. So this is and this is going to be happening actually on January 25th. So, and it's nothing to panic about, nothing to freak out about. It's just something to be aware of. So, in this, so squares usually represent a type of friction. Okay, so in this case, you have Saturn, which is representative of authority and traditional things, and then you have it squaring Uranus, which is the planet of new strides, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. It's in charge of the collective and represents the heavens itself. So, um, in this sense, so traditionalism is squaring off with the beaten, the less traveled path, shall we say? So, the collective experience and access to resources is really one of the main components that's going to be coming up in that type of friction. Um, Uranus also deals with medical information and the medical field, but also technology, which is a huge thing in question at this point because I don't know if you all have noticed or not, but there seems to be a lot more emphasis on where we're at these days and the things that we listen to and all this vaccine information. So we're watching these two planetary gods bash heads with each other. And they've been kind of doing their own thing up until this point, but that squaring is going to happen on the 25th. So again, this is more of a collective situation, but it can still affect things based on your natal chart. So, depending on where your Saturn lands in your natal chart, as well as where your Uranus lands in your natal chart, you can go to astro.com and plug in your birth information to find that out. And if you need a translation, come talk to me. I might be able to do something for you. Um, so, the one of the other major pinnacles of that type of alignment is how we are managing our discomforts. So, this can be a toss up between doing what we feel we're supposed to be doing, quote unquote, which I know a lot of you understand that sentiment, versus what you're actually desiring to do, what takes you off the beaten path and into something that's a little bit more unique and wondrous. So, here's another example. How are we managing our exhaustion from all these pressures and that stuck sensation? So, um, the mental overwhelm is going to challenge us in our material aspects, and it's going to dismantle our reliance on habits and fiat resources. And the thing is, with these types of squares, so this is a systemic change, not only in collective society, but in ourselves as well. And it's not going to be like, oh my God, everything's going to blow up and explode, and the government's going to shut down and this and that. It's not like that. These are slow, gradual changes. You know that saying, it's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. That's pretty much how this is set up. So, um, in that type of setting, let's say, for example, how many of you? Let's test everyone's geology and information. So, how are crystals and diamonds and other stones made? Heat and friction, right? So you have sand and stone and other earthen elements compacting over an extended period of time, and with heat and friction In formation, eventually, you get crystals, you get diamonds, you get these beautiful gemstones. But imagine the story that is in those gemstones. Imagine the many years that they spent going through these tumultuous moments and these tumultuous seasons to come out as something as beautiful and radiant as they are. That is the essence of the human soul. That is the essence of the alchemical process. And speaking very briefly, one of the reasons that I follow the cosmic weather in the sky is because it's a force of nature. Civilizations followed these patterns and these seasons for thousands of years. And so I find that sometimes there can be a semblance of understanding of the influences that we as humans have with that force of nature. So, my humble opinion, take it or leave it. Okay, so um, also when it comes to backtracking just briefly for Venus, so Venus RX in Capricorn, so structures in businesses and careers and relationships. So, what retrogrades teach is a slowing down of the energy that we would normally be traversing in. And then it also has us relearn previous lessons. So, I mean, have you ever gone through years in your life to where it seems like you asked yourself, I feel like I've done this before, or I feel like I've known this before? That can be a retrograde. I'm not saying it is, I'm saying it has those qualities. So, and so one of the things that Venus reminds us of, especially in retrograde, is the quality, the pleasure in which we derive from these things, from our career path, from our material possessions. You know, it can be a beautiful work of art, or it can be our favorite shoes, or it can be our favorite tea, things like that. When it comes to retrograde for this type of thing, we tend to take the rose colored glasses off, and things tend to lose their shimmer and their beauty and their desire. Because, especially with Venus being in Capricorn and with it conjuncting Pluto, which is ruled by Scorpio, there is a more discerning line there. So, um, with Capricorn in the mix, we can be rethinking our status, our career, our public reputation, even. You know, just to give you a perfect example, I don't even know what I'm doing with dance at this point. I'm going to be straight up with that. I have no idea if everything's come to a screeching halt. And I have had to accept that at this point in time. So you might be considering a career change for yourself. You might be considering something different that you want to contribute to the public, whether it's investment or whether it's starting some type of program. So, but these ideas, this is a simmer point for us, and that's the beautiful part of it. Um, Incidentally, it's not a time to sugarcoat things. You're not going to be able to get away with that. It's going to be very raw and poignant and in front of you. So, nothing to freak out about. It's just, it is what it is. So, um, one of the shadow aspects of this type of time is control and fear and major ego issues. Um, because Pluto often rules power, and as does Capricorn, because that's ruled by Saturn. So there's an authoritarian quality to it, which can be useful at certain points. I mean, there are times that structure is helpful. However, one of the things that I would say keep an eye on in this type of dynamic is, and again, this goes back to the sugar coating and the rose colored glasses, is you won't be able to hide that. Like it's not going to permeate your senses to where you'll be able to overlook it. If you see someone who seems to be overtaken or acting out with a sense of heightened ego, first of all, it's just part of the season. Don't sweat it. But that is their inner work to deal with. And so obviously I'm going to mention this to anyone else as well. Things to keep an eye on in your shadow work if that is what you are doing at this time, which winter is the right time for that sort of thing. Um, we're looking at an ego collapse versus ego evolution, which those two can go hand in hand, of course, because there may be patterns that the ego has picked up over the years that doesn't necessarily help it anymore. So, if you're constructing something new and something better, guess what? You have to first break down the old structure. So, which I know is easier said than done sometimes, but the idea is knowing that there's an end to the tunnel. So, you know, if you want to build a better building, you have to bulldoze the land with the old dilapidated building first before you can start to build a new. So, something to just think about. And again, I don't sweat this stuff anymore. I'm just kind of like, okay, so that's what's going on. So I've talked mostly about Saturn, Uranus, Venus, conjunct Pluto at this point. Now, here's the big one. So this will be going on for about the next year and a half, and this is the one that I really wanted to hit on, because I don't know how much this is going to be talked about. Um, so what we are experiencing in other parts of the world, they're already experiencing it now, as in tomorrow. But here in the U.S. Eastern Time, tomorrow approximately. So we will be viewing a nodal axis shift, which translates to there are nodes that surround the moon. So there's a north node and a south node. So without getting too much into the basic information on it, again, I encourage anyone to go to astro.com. The nodal axis shift. So nodes translate to knots in Latin. And so what these represent is a cosmic pathway for the collective. So the north node would be the direction that we're headed to, in the sense of it's moving away from the earth. So it's kind of that ascension point. And I'm not talking ascension in the sense of, oh, we're ascending and we're wonderful, fluttery, angelic beings. It's not like that. That's different. What I'm talking about is the pathways in which we're traversing as a species through this cycle, through these seasons. So you got to marvel at life sometimes. The South Node is the lessons that we have walked away from as a collective, or that we've moved on from. And the North Node, so there's modern astrology, okay, and then there's traditional astrology. So the modern view of the North Node and the South Node is that their karma, that their spiritual lessons, and they very well could be. Far be it from me to say it is or it isn't. The North Node can be considered the spiritual mission, for example. And this also, by the way, extends to individuals. It's not just strictly the collective level. I do want to delineate that. So the South Node is considered lessons from previous lives for on the individual scale as well as the collective. So, just to give you an example, so my North Node is in Aries and my South Node is in Libra. So, in this particular school of thought, I would be advancing, and this is again my take on it. I would be advancing more into individualism and looking at the world with a fresh and energetic and I don't know if positive is the right word, maybe motivated sense of eyes. Whereas with Libra, I would be that can be a little bit softer spoken of a sign. I've heard terrible I don't personally believe this, but I've heard like this sad idea that Libras are doormats and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they just try to make people happy and that's just kind of part of how they're wired. Um, but in that sense, I would be moving away from uh, service to others at my own detriment and more into my own life path, learning how to cultivate a healthy sense of self. So that's just an example of how the North and South Node could be read in a modern context. Now, the traditional view of the nodes. So, and when I say traditional, I mean prior to the mid 1900s. So the modern view of astrology is not that old, trust me. So in the sense of the traditional view on the North Node and the South Node, okay, so first of all, this was discussed in Ayurvedic astrology thousands of years ago. So the North Node of the moon is known as Rahu, and then the south node of the moon is known as Ketu. And again, I'm not going to go into this too much because I don't want to overwhelm everybody's brain. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, I promise. So, what so Rahu was considered in the mythos was considered a demon, and he was trying to it was either drink from the fountain of life or eat the fruit of life or something to that extent, and his head was chopped off from his body. And so, rather than having that hunger satiated, this demon was headless and flopping about like anything would, and it was doomed to have that sense of thirst, that hunger that was never satiated. And so the traditional view of the node, the north node and the south node, is that the north node marks an increase or gain in something. Now, sometimes a gain or an increase can be a good thing, right? You're gaining better health, or you're gaining muscle mass, or something to that extent. However, when it came to the sense of traditional philosophy and theology and practices, gain was not always the best thing because what it could do was lead to materialism and investment in things that did not satiate the soul's purpose. Okay, so and conversely, that's where the South Node represented spiritual progress by hardships and relinquishing possessions and other various qualities. So that's just a little backstory behind Rahu and Ketu. So some people have called these the karmic points of humanity. Mm, could be discussed either way. So I really don't have an opinion of it. And the funny thing is, too, and being that I've studied some Aogiri traditions and Kawala traditions, it's karma isn't something that you can catch and release. It's not like that. It's a force of nature. Again, it's just different. Like it exists by proxy regardless of if we exist or not. So, which is absolutely fascinating to me. So when people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna clear my karma," it's like it's not a whiteboard, so it's just not how it works. So certain things can be transmuted, but anyways, that's a whole nother topic. I could probably do like a workshop on that. Um, so this North Node shift. that's going on. Okay. So for the past year and a half, the North Node has been in Gemini. So if there's any Geminis in the house, what's up? If and then the South Node has been in Sagittarius. Okay. So and I've talked about this multiple times in my videos on these types of things. Every sign has a complementary sign to it. Because I mean we're the way that nature itself is set up is to be a complementary system. It's meant to be dualistic. So we see this in nature constantly. Um, so Gemini is shifting into the North Node from Gemini is shifting into Taurus. Okay, this is literally happening tomorrow, or has already happened, depending on which part of the planet you're hailing from. Um, so let's talk briefly about Taurus, and feel free to chime in the chat if you have anything that you want to add regarding Taurus that you might know about or have experienced. But everyone, it's funny. The running joke on Taurus is they love to eat. And yes, we do like food, but it's not about the food so much. See, the thing about Taurus that's really enjoyable is the sensory experience. It's the body. It's the stimuli that comes into the body. Taste, touch, sight, sound. It's senses. And so when you're combining it's a sensory experience, it's a physical one, and it's harmony as well. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Okay. So some people might say Libra is harmonic. Yes, that is true. But Taurus intends to, generally speaking, it likes to be comfortable. Okay. And my sun sign is Taurus, so yes, I like to be a little bit cozy sometime. I like nice things. I like nice organic wine. I like delicious home cooked food. I like company of good people and good conversation. I like a good roll in the hay. I like chocolate. I like good music. There's a ton of things that we like. Um, we like wealth, you know, and but they're also tend to be hardworking people. So they once they set their sights on something, they're like, okay, this I need to do this, and this to get there. So incidentally, they can be a little stubborn too. Now, so that's an example of Taurus qualities, and that will be in the North Node. Now, other examples, and by the way, this isn't limited based on what I'm saying. So Scorpio is going to be in the South Node. Now, I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, and I can tell you that we are not shitty people. Okay. Um, what I can say is that they are. So Scorpio is the eighth sign in the zodiac. So rules the eighth house, and the Scorpio is essentially the magician of the zodiac wheel. And I say this because it's one of its major components that makes it as powerful as it is that it has ties to the ancestors. It has ties to things beyond the living world. So one needs to be careful when working with that type with that archetype, because it's a destructive and transformative energy. Remember what I was saying earlier about bulldozing that old dilapidated house on the property to make way for a new one? That's part of what Scorpio can do. It's has ties to regeneration. However, it can also be a conflictual sign because its traditional ruler is Mars. So, war energy. I don't like the rep that it gets sometimes because, yes, they can be ferocious, but they're very loyal energy. When you get them involved, when you get them a friend that they care about, they will fight to the death for their friend because that's how they are. And Scorpios tend to be, they see the unseen. They see things that they see beyond the surface. They see beyond the superficial. That's one of their talents. That's why you can't really lie to them because they know. They just, they know. I once made a joke about this. Scorpios know because they know. Um, but in any case, all of that aside, so again, going back to this karmic theology, this progression, even within these nodes. So what I'm seeing here, based on this axis that's happening, is that there is going to be a balancing act between resources here, okay? Because again, Taurus has a certain influence over resources, regarding things that are needed for basic survival, even. So, food, money, things that directly interact with the physical form. Okay. So everything that is essentially on the outside. And then you have the aspects of Scorpio, which are often an internalized process. So, excuse me. So, this alignment that's coming up with these nodes, one of many different lessons that we're going to be experiencing is our desires and how those are manifested in this reality. And I wouldn't be on here talking for apparently almost 40 minutes now about this type of topic if I didn't find it absolutely essential, because we are entering into a point with everything that's going on with this mapping that's happening. Be absolutely careful about manifesting what you want. Your thoughts, which by the way, Mercury's in Capricorn as well, so there's that cognition, that material, that form, that physical form that's coming up. And be very careful of what you are saying and what you are thinking. And I know that may sound like something coming out of a fortune cookie, so bear with me for 10 seconds, okay? Scorpio is the sign of magic. When I said it was the magician, when I said it was the medicine, the sign of the medicine keeper, I wasn't kidding. So when you have a material sign like Taurus and it is in flux with the component of Scorpio, it is a speak and it shall be situation. So please, 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 please practice responsibility with this upcoming alignment. This is going to be a year and a half that it's in these settings. And you're going to see beyond the surface of what is being advertised, what is being offered. There's going to be deception in a lot of this. And if you really tune in to that inner psychic that you have, that inner quality, you will be able to look past superficiality. I think if there's anything else. There is some other pieces that I could talk about, but I'm not going to do it in this video. But we are entering into a time to where we are going to have to start looking at how to share resources. And when I say that, I mean labor, I mean food, and I mean money. Because we are reaching a critical point. And I don't want to go into heavy stuff too much right now, but, and again, this is A, what I'm seeing, B, what other professional astrologers are seeing. So I'm not saying this to present a doom and gloom type thing. That's not my goal here. That's not even really my bag, because believe me, I would kill for some good for some really good news right now, trust me. Um Understand what it is that you have to offer in the world. And that could be that could be anything. It could be growing a community garden. It could be um, contributing time to after school programs. It could be uh, volunteering in medical clinics. And but it here's the thing, and I feel the need to delineate this as well. It doesn't always have to be these outstanding type motions. Sometimes it can be something as simple as helping someone to laugh when they've had a terrible day. Every little motion counts. That's one of the effects of the Dharma, is every little thing that we do and say ripples out. This is what Eastern mysticism teaches. This is what a lot of paradigms teach, just different ways of saying it. Sometimes the best thing that we can do to help the world is to ensure that we are in the right place with ourselves before we start trying to help the world. This was a lesson that I've had to learn for a while myself. So I hope this was helpful for some of you. I realize it's a lot of information. And to whoever's been hanging out watching this, thank you. I appreciate your presence. Again, if you are curious about where these transits are hitting your house, because it's going to be different for everybody, 12 houses in the zodiac, where your natal planets are, natal meaning your birth chart, you can go to astro.com. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to reach out to me. I will take a look. I do professional readings for people. Um, so just feel free to reach out if you have a question on anything. Even if it's just one planet, I'm happy to look at it and see what I can do. But yeah, in that sense, I hope everyone has a decent solstice. I realize the holidays are kind of a mixed bag for people. They are for me too, trust me. And it's okay to be festive or not be festive. All right. The thing that I want you all to keep in mind is what helps you to feel more aligned, what helps you to feel happy and just, or even neutral, and you don't have to feel happy, you don't have to feel neutral. But the art of self care is getting ourselves into a balanced point. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. I hope it does. But it's not always about being in this ascended space. Some days it's just about being with yourself in your crappy ass mood. And believe me, I get it and I know. So, and you're in good company for that type of thing. So, um, yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions on anything. But I hope you all got some burning Yule log, or, you know, hang out with some friends, or have some eggnog, or, whatever, something like that. So, anyways, happy solstice, everyone. I'll probably come out with another video on this Pluto return that's coming up. And just to kind of give you a idea of that. So the last time we had a Pluto return was 1776. that year strike a bell for you? So, anyways, all right. Lots of love to everybody. Take care, and I will talk to you soon, okay? Ciao.